Nice to see you guys. Let's start seated. We're going to use a block and a couple of blankets or a book and a couple of towels, whatever is accessible to you, but just finding a seat that allows you to center in. Let's make sure we get the spine nice and vertical with that verticality. Let's start to slow down the breath. Maybe start to craft that protective membrane around your mat so that you feel a line of delineation between the practicing space and everything else going on. Maybe we even allow the eyes to close. We'll give ourselves just 60 more seconds here. Checking on the rate of respiration here for this last 15 seconds. Trying to smooth things out more than anything else. And then we'll allow the eyes to open if they're closed. Let's bring the bottoms of the feet together so we end up in a little heated butterfly alignment. And then kind of note how the bottoms can pressurize, and then find a space on the shins or the ankles. You can even go to the lateral edge where you can give the legs a little bit of support. And think about increasing that pressure at the foot positioning, maybe 5 to 10%, not a ton, but enough that there's a real sensation through the entirety of the feet. And let's start some little delicate flaps of the hips. Movement here is small, just looking to play with the sensations of the abductors, maybe even wrapping into that hamstring space. And the movement can be super slow too, right? I got a little rapid there, but this can be very intentional if that feels more appropriate. I might even suggest that. And then bring the legs to a point of stillness and think about finding that alignment, that vertical alignment of the spine. So maybe even a little pull forward into the neutral extension. And then let's start to do some little circles with the spinal column. Imagine that your sacrum is like the bottom of a top, and you're just trying to spin around that anchor point, that connection point. So it doesn't need to be super big, but also, in imagining the stability of a top, there's not an anchor and then a hinge, right? And although the sacrum has the capacity to be a hinge, think about instead keeping that integration in the spine as you circle. removing the hinge capacities, not just in the sacrum, but in the vertebrae stack, and then we'll reverse that direction. You may, as you're moving here, especially with this full integration, you may feel how the hips, that abductor musculature kind of is necessary to make this integration happen in the spine while allowing the movement. And then eventually, we'll come back to a neutral space. From your neutral space, let's just extend our legs out in front of us. Have your props handy. We're going to get to them, but we'll just take an initial forward fold, something to wake up that posterior chain. And as you're in this fold, start to observe where the stickiness is in your shape. Is it high calf insertion? Is it hamstrings? Is it low back, mid back, upper back? Where are we most feeling the resistance? I'll just explore that for another 15 seconds. And then eventually, we'll walk our way back into a vertical staff alignment. And we're going to use our props to remove the resistance. So, if the resistance was mostly felt in the hamstrings or high calf insertion, then let's take our props, however you want to use them, right? I'm just going to go hot dog from shelf fold, and then put a block in between and place that underneath the legs. So that is if we're feeling high calf or hamstring resistance, and that'll help take that out. Now, it does put some pressure on the hip flexor, so keep that in mind. Maybe you have to play and adjust the height and depth. If you're feeling this mostly in the back, let's say, from the lumbar up, then we can build our prop shape on top of the legs and allow our body to go forward into a supported fold. We're looking for a supported fold, but we're looking for the supported fold that best fits the restrictiveness in our body. So just make the choice that's appropriate for you. If something else feels better, maybe a combination of both of these, utilize that. And remember, you do have the ability to double and triple over the folds to give yourself more height and support. And then just settle your way into a fold where you feel like you can hang out for a bit. Make sure you're supported. Make sure your body feels at ease. And then go right back to that breath, that fluid, smooth transition between the inhale and the exhale. The breath here has the capacity to lead the release. And so the more at ease and fluid your breath is, the more at ease and fluid and relaxed your nervous system is, the more relaxed your nervous system is, the less tension in the physicality of the body. So really think about leading with the breath into ease, into expansion. Remember to be constantly checking in on how the breath is impacting you here. And as the impact of the breath starts to work its way into the physicality of the shape, remember that you can adjust, right? So you may want to remove some of the depth, the height, so that your body can find its way further into the shape. That being said, if you've set yourself up for too much physical depth and it's shortening the breath, you feel like you're fighting, you're resisting, increase the support so that you find your way into a supported experience. We'll give ourselves just about 90 more seconds here. Last 30 seconds, really see if there's any last depth available to you here. Can you find this capacity for physical expansion? And when it feels appropriate, we'll bring ourselves into a seat or a staff. We're going to use props underneath us. If you're using a block or if you're using a book or a blanket, we're going to do this a little bit different. So if you're using a block, we're going to run the block the direction of the spine. If you're using a book, you're going to put that down flat. And then whatever we're using, we're going to create an equivalent height from our blanket props. So however that happens, we want to have a little bit of a gap. This is going to catch the top of our spine, and then we want our head to be supported. So we're lowering ourselves down onto either a block or a book. Again, if you're using the book, just make sure that you're flat, and then you have an equivalent amount of height in the head support. However you feel however you feel most comfortable in making that shape. At the same time, we really want to make sure that this is supporting the upper back and that we have a really level experience between the two props. So once you get settled and adjusted, think about the bottom of the block, basically at the base of the scapula, bottom of the block or book. Let me include our options. And again, you could use a double blanket here as well. palms up, so we have some external rotation through the shoulder structure. And then find a breath that allows for your musculature to relax. We're really focused on this medial line of supportive lateral running musculature from the spinal column. And the goal here is to relax to the lateral edge of the body so that the medial line is supported. But from that support, the breath sends release and allows for this openness away from the medial line. Why that palm up space really impacts the shape. And so there's this legendary village. It's legendary because of the people, the vastness, the beauty, the creativity, the inventions, the technology. And this village has built quite a reputation for itself around the world. Because of that reputation, there is a traveler on her way to visit this village. And she has just seen it in the distance. This huge archway that is the entrance, and glistening against the setting sun. She's a little surprised when she finally makes her way to the main roadway in that there's almost no traffic. And she thinks about what a amazing thing that is, that this huge populace, for a village anyway, somehow been creative enough to not clog their roadways, traffic. She gets closer and closer to this archway, this entrance, and it's more grand than she imagines. And it keeps looking bigger and bigger and more expansive as she gets closer. And the sun's setting. And she's looking down at the cobbled road. And she's kind of noticing some peculiar things. Cobbles that seem a little unset in the road. Weeds where she wouldn't expect weeds to be. It's not a lot, but from the stories of the immaculateness of this place, she's surprised to see these things. And yet she kind of chalks it up to, well, the sun's setting, the light's fading. I'm sure it's just shadows kind of playing with my perspective. Last 60 seconds here. Last 20 seconds here. This last opportunity for lateral expansion. When it feels appropriate, let's bring our knees into a bent position and we'll just roll off of our prop one direction or the other, whatever side feels most ideal. We can set that to the side for the moment. And then adjust so that your neck can be supported by your blanket. However that adjustment is, you can bunch up a hot dog fold or you can roll. But really think about the neck being supported and the remaining portion of the spine, thoracic and lumbar spine, being neutral. Let's bring our knees into a bent position. Let the kneecaps point up towards the ceiling and take our arms open towards cactus. And just settle here in a way where you can be fully and completely at ease. Think about how the thoracic and lumbar spine are reintegrating into the neutrality after that extended duration of the thoracic spine being in an elevated position in comparison to the lumbar. Last 15 seconds here. When you're right and you're ready, let's remove that prop from underneath the neck. We're going to want an approximation of a block. So if you have a good thick book, that works perfectly. If you want to use a blanket instead, or if you have a block, obviously a block will do a good job approximating a block. We're going to press into the toe mounds and heels, lift the belt line, and slide that prop underneath our tailbone. We want that top edge of the prop roughly top edge of the sacrum. If you're using a blanket, you need to adjust for the lack of density or the fading density as you get closer to the edge. So we want to be stable here. And then just find a supported bridge where we can let the arms fall to a place where they're comfortable. Again, let's go palms up. This traveler finds her way into this storied village and finds a quiet place to rest for the night. When the sun rises the next morning, she is beyond excited to get to experience this wonder. Pops up, and she excitedly heads to the center of town. She's heard about this thriving marketplace in the center of town. And yet when she gets there, the stalls are nearly empty. There are people milling around. It's not like no one's there, but it's not a thriving and bustling place like she expected. And so she asks someone, why are the stalls all empty in the marketplace? And this person kind of looks down at her, back at her in this disgusted way. And through these very fancy looking glasses, these very advanced technological glasses, person says to this traveler, the stalls aren't empty. The market is thriving. What you see is just a trick of light. And then kind of turns up her nose and walks away. And this traveler looks back at the market and she sees that there's barely anything or anyone in the stalls. And she starts to look at the people milling around. And they're all wearing these glasses. And she sees a stall selling these glasses. And a couple person line in front of the stall. It's the only stall with anyone making purchases. And so she gets in this line. Think about that softness or fluidity within the breath. Think about how the upper back here is landing and anchoring, so that as you anchor, the pec major, pec minor musculature can relax and broaden out. And how the scapula are finding a neutral support so that any tilt or shift in that shoulder blade structure is getting neutralized through the weight of your torso and the neutrality of the mat beneath you. About 120 more seconds here. Really bring that focus to the elevated space now, the space above the sacrum and the lumbar, and drifting down towards the thoracic spine where your spine meets the mat. And think about how you can relax the musculature there. The breath itself can work with you to relax that musculature. Last 30 seconds here. Smoothing your way into that breath more and more. When it feels appropriate, let's push down into our toe mounds and heels and elevate the belt line enough that we can remove that block and release the tailbone back down to the mat. Extend your right leg straight down the mat if it's ready for that. And then we'll let the left knee fall out wide. Now, as that happens, you have the option to prop that lateral edge, left thigh up. Make the determination what would be more advantageous for you. Tune in to how the sacrum's sitting and think about that as your guide here. If the sacrum is getting off kilter, prop the leg so that the sacrum can be more balanced. If you're able to find neutrality across the sacrum and this feels good on the hip, but only if those two things are simultaneously true, then you may not need that prop. And she waits in this short line and she finally gets up. And as she steps up to this little stall, the man behind the counter says, "How many do you want?" And she says, "How many what?" And he laughs and he says, "Oh, you must be new around here. These are the views of the future." And he says, "Try these on." And he puts a pair of these very futuristic looking glasses on her. And as they slide onto her face, she looks around and all of a sudden, all of the stalls in the market are full. And she pops them off very quickly and they're empty again. And the salesman kind of chuckles and he says, "Oh, you didn't like what you see? Don't worry. You can adjust so that you'll see anything you want to see. You prefer the world to be green? We can make everything you see tinted green. prefer sunshine every day, we can make your days full of sunshine. No wind, no sound. Happy people, no people, upset people, whatever you want to see. We can tune these to make that your reality. With some apprehension, she ends up buying a pair of these glasses. And she just leaves them on the default setting and keeps putting them on, taking them off, putting them on, taking them off as she walks around this village. Last 30 seconds here on this first side. And inhale, we'll bring our knees back to, or our left knee back to neutral, and then bring the right knee to mirror that. Allow a little bit of lateral sway, just enough to reintegrate. And then eventually we'll extend that left leg down the mat. The right knee can fall open. Again, you can use that prop if it suits you, if it benefits you. For a while, she just pockets the glasses and walks around. And she sees weeds growing in the cracks and chips kind of falling off some of the stucco in the buildings. After some time of weaving through the village, she pops the glasses on. And everything looks exactly as it's always been described to her. She's seeing this village in a way that the tales have told her this village is and would always be. And yet it feels empty. And so she's thinking deeply about why. Why would it feel so different when clearly it looks exactly as she expected it to? And she starts to observe the people with the glasses on, and then once again with the glasses off. And she notices that while the people are communicating with one another, they aren't doing so in a meaningful way. She looks at the options, and she can make every interaction pleasant, should she choose. That's 15 seconds here on the second side. When it feels appropriate, we'll bring that right knee to neutral and let the left knee follow. Let the knees start to explore a little dynamic sway. The knees fall over towards the left side. Find that static, anchored twist. Over the course of the next few days, where this woman had planned to be in this legendary village, she keeps trying to have conversations with people about what is when the glasses are off. And they keep giving her the same response. Or a similar response. Something about what she sees being a trick of light. And that there's no reason to see the negativity. When everything is perfect. Bring our knees back to neutral. Let the sacrum balance. Think about adjusting the physicality of the body so that the entirety of the spine is integrated, and let the bottoms of the feet come together and the knees fall out wide. The more conversations she has in this village, the more uneasy she feels about being there. And after a few days, she packs up and she travels on, leaving behind this legendary village that she's known about her whole life. Last 15 seconds. And we'll bring our knees together and let the knees fall over to the second side, the right side. Land here, anchor here, and feel into this anchored twist. Last 15 seconds here on the second side. We'll bring our knees back to neutral. Adjust so that the entirety of the spine, cervical, thoracic, lumbar, is integrated. And then ask yourself if there are any final tweaks or adjustments that your body could benefit from prior to Shavasana. There is. Let's offer those to ourselves now. And if we have everything that we could possibly need, let's slip into a shape where we can fully appreciate Shavasana. Years and years later, just making our way back. Home. And in the distance, she sees this huge arch. And she remembers the legendary city. As she passes through the archway entrance, she is more than surprised at what she sees. Just finding our version of Shavasana. She looks around surprised. The buildings are crumbled. Crops are withered. The market is gone. And there are people still milling around with smiles on their face. She approaches the first person she sees and asks him what happened here. And with a big gleaming smile, he looks back at her and says, "Nothing has changed. The village is as beautiful as ever." And she can see the reflection in her face through his very futuristic glasses. We'll start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes, to our wrists and our ankles. Elbows and knees, shoulders, hips, neck, head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the entirety of the body moves, and we'll utilize that movement to transition from the shapes we're in. We'll find our way back into a seat. In the seated space, spine gets tall, breath gets fluid, eyes close. Feel into the fluidity of your breath and the engagement and alignment of your spine. With our next inhale, we'll bring our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself that when we attempt to create reality out of our perspectives and opinions, we lose sight of the truth, and with it, everything that matters. And see how that changes your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Sunday, guys. Appreciate the heck out of you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow night to move, and we'll do this again next Sunday. Have a beautiful day or week. Love you. Mwah.